YouTube, this is Tubedigga. As you can see, I've now got a Maschine Plus, and in this video I'm going to show you my 10 favourite features of this excellent standalone workstation. Before I get into this video, I just want to thank all my current subscribers, anyone that's liked and shared my videos, anyone that follows and supports me on social media, and of course anyone that's been kind enough to donate to this channel. If you'd like to do that yourselves, there's a PayPal link in the description. Also, if you'd like to get access to project files and sample packs and MPC drum programs, etc., you can become one of my patrons on Patreon if you like. If you just want to head over to www.patreon.com/tubedigga, you can see the different tiers available and all that's on offer there. If you'd like private tuition with myself, please contact me at tubedigga@gmail.com. We can do this over Zoom, Skype or Google Hangouts, whichever you prefer. I can teach you lots of things about the MPC, about Maschine, and about sampling, synthesis, sound engineering and sound design in general. So if you've been a subscriber to my channel for quite some time and you know the kind of things that I like, then you'll probably know that I'm a big fan of automating the start point of samples. This is something that you can do in the MPC, and I've shown videos on how to do that, but it requires a bit more setting up. With the Maschine Plus, we can do it straight away, and we can do it in a couple of different ways, and it does it really, really well. So I've got a sample from the movie RoboCop here.
Please put down your weapon. You have 20 seconds to comply.
Let's just record this into a pattern using note repeat so we've got multiple triggers. So let's first of all just do it at quarter notes and press and hold shift and press record. So we've got our triggers there. Let's go back to the plugin, and here is our start parameter here. So to record this as automation, we've got our automation button here. We can press and hold that and just move the knob. So let's just do that first.
Down your 20s, your weapon down your 20s, your weapon down your 20s.
So that's all fair and good. That's recorded that in. Let's press and hold shift and press pad 10 and that will clear the automation. And we're back to where we started. Now, the way that I prefer to do it, which is a lot more tactile, is by using the touch strip. So first of all, make sure you're in mod mode, so we can engage or disengage that. Let's go to page 6 in the plugin, and we've got mod wheel destination, and we can apply a percentage for the start parameter. So let's put it at 100%. Now this is slightly different. We don't use the automation button now. We actually record this as data into the sequencer. So I'm not too sure whether it's CC data, it might be NRPN or something similar in the background, or it might even be SysX, I'm not too sure. But it has to be recorded this way rather than using the automation button there. So we need to arm the recording, press restart, and now we can just move our finger along the touch strip.
Down your weapon applies to comply. Once put down comply to comply. 20 seconds. Once put down comply to comply.
So this is good if you've got a lot longer spacing between your notes in your pattern. Obviously for this example I've just got a simple 1-bar pattern with 4 triggers here on the 4 different beats. You could have a really long sample that's 32 bars long, and at bar 17 you could trigger something halfway through it to play a different section of a sample. But let's actually put more triggers in here, so let's go to note repeat and change this to 16th notes, and let's record some more triggers into this sequence. Let's press and hold shift and clear the automation first. And you can hear that it's playing back already at a different position because of where we are on the touch strip. So if we just play back without recording,
You have comply.
so the higher the note resolution with the notes that you've got in your pattern, obviously we can do granular stuff. Let's actually go to 64th notes and try this. And of course all this can be recorded. Let's just press record again. So in my opinion, the way that sample start automation has been implemented in Maschine Plus is second to none. It's really, really great, and you can get some excellent experimental and granular results. Resampling in Maschine Plus is an excellent feature, and I really like the way they've implemented it. If you can just take a look at my third pad here, we're in the plugin instance, so if we just move across with the wheel here, this is the sampler, it's this sound. So I've got it set to loop so I can press and hold it and it will last indefinitely. We've got a filter, we've got an ice reverb, saturator and a cabinet all on that pad. Let's say we want to just bake this sample down so we're not using up all these insert effects and additional processing power. We can go to sampling, make sure the input source is set to internal, and we can resample directly straight over the top of the original sample if we want, or we can sample to another pad or another blank pad. So let's just do it straight to the pad that it's already on. Just press start and trigger the sample. We press stop and now that sample is on this pad. But as you can hear, it's still got the effects, so you would have to go back into the plugin area and just delete these insert effects, which is really easy. We just press and hold shift and press remove on the particular plugin that you want to remove. Let's go back to the sampling page. Let's press and hold shift and press pad 1 to undo. So now we've got our original sample on here. So let's say we want to sample it to another pad. So we just press the pad we want to sample to, press start and press pad 3. And now that sample has populated pad 11. And we've still got our original on pad 3. So can Maschine Plus do sidechain compression? Yes it can, and it does it really well and really easily. So in my first group here I've got an instance of Prism and we've got this pad sound Equinox, and on my second group I'm using Massive and it's just a kick drum. So I'm just going to play this back for you. Simple enough. So if we want to send this kick drum into a compressor on Prism, let's just go back to group A where Prism is. Let's use the data wheel and move across to the plus symbol, click down, and let's just select the compressor. And if we just go to the second page on the compressor, you can see we've got input source here, and we can choose any sound from any group. So obviously we've only just got the kick drum there, and let's just select that. Let's play the pattern back. It's that simple. Instant sidechain compression in Maschine Plus. Maschine Plus has the ability to lock certain states or parameter settings and then morph between them, which is an excellent feature. So as you can see, I've got a filter on the group for this breakbeat. So let's just play the pattern back. So let's say I want one state where the break sounds like this with no filter applied, and I want a second state with the filter applied so I can easily flick between them. So let's just lock this state. To do that, we just press the lock button here. If we press and hold shift and press lock again, we get into the extended lock state. So this is where we can select the different states that we've locked the machine in. So this is the state that we've just created there without the filter. Let's choose a new state and let's just play the pattern back again, but apply some filter this time. Press and hold shift and press lock. Now we've got our filtered lock state and our unfiltered lock state, and we can just jump between those now. In the bottom left corner of the screen here, you can see that we've got different morphing settings. So morphing set to off at the moment, and that means we just jump between the two lock states immediately. But we can turn that on and get different settings for how that morphs. So we can have mode travel or mode target. So if we set it to target, we can morph or switch between these two lock states based on a grid time division. If we go to travel, then we slowly morph between these two based on the bar setting that we've got here. So let's just set it to 1 bar so we can hear that quickly and easily. So let's choose our unfiltered state first, and then we're going to morph between these two over 1 bar. So when you create a new state on these pads, it's going to create the state that it's currently in. So at the moment, this is our unfiltered state. So let's press pad 3. Let's go back to the plugin and let's see which pads are playing there. So it's these two. So let's select these 2 pads and just do something ridiculous with the pitching of these. Press lock. Let's press and hold shift, go back to extended locks. Now we're going to hear that effect with the pitching of those 2 pads in this lock state. So whatever parameters you change and then you press lock, they will be reflected in the extended lock states here on these different pads. Sample slicing in Maschine Plus is really great, and it's been very well implemented in my opinion. On my first pad here, I've got an aim and break. We're in the sampling section and we're in slice mode. You can see that our option here is the slicer mode. So currently it's set to manual. So manual means that if we trigger the sample, we can press additional pads as the sample plays through. Okay, so we can easily delete those slices by pressing delete all up here. Now, this is what I think is really good. Whatever the algorithm's doing here for the detection is really great. So we've got the sensitivity at 50%, which is the default, and you can see that it's currently missing some of these transients. But if we increase that, it places enough exactly where you want them. So this crash symbol up here, sometimes because we've got a little transient spike in there, the detection would put another slice marker here. It's not a massive thing at all, we could just delete it easy enough. It just shows you that the sampling engine is really doing exactly what it should do in this machine. So if we just zoom in there, you can see it's perfectly detected that, maybe just a tiny bit out, but it's really not going to notice that much. So it's a really excellent implementation of slicing in this machine. So we can now map these slices really easily to any pads or any groups that we've got in our project. So let's just press apply and we can choose any group now. So let's just choose E1, press OK, and now all our slices are in a new completely different group. So let's just go to sound. And we've got a perfectly chopped aim and break in a completely different group. So we could go back to this original. Okay, so this is back in the sample editor. If we come out of there, we've just got our original in group 1. But if we go to group E, there's our chopped version in a completely different group. So we could just pretty much delete this group here. So I've now programmed those chops into our sequence. We're actually back in group 1 now with this chop. But you can hear how precise it is. You can hear this aim and break is just completely spot on, and that gives it a really nice energy. There's no sloppiness to this. And obviously, because this break is chopped into the smallest components possible, we can affect the tuning really easily of this break without having to pitch shift it or time stretch it. Even the sample start parameter works with this, which is really amazing. Let's now select a completely clear and unused group, group F. Let's go to sampling, make sure the input source is set to internal so we can resample the aim and break. Press start and let's just restart the pattern. Next we need to go to edit, and now we can edit this sample so we've got a perfect amount of bars. So we can just zoom in there and easily get to just before that additional kick that we don't need. Let's just see if that's perfect now. Perfect. Go up to the top here, go to truncate, press apply, and now we've got a perfect 4-bar loop of the aim and break. We can now go to slice, change the mode to grid, and we can choose different portions of this to be split into. Again, if we want to apply that, we can just press apply, new group, group G, press OK, and in group G now we've got a perfectly chopped aim and break using the grid method. Another amazing thing about this machine is its build quality. It is definitely a premium product. As soon as I got it out of the box and felt it, it's got a really nice weight to it. The materials used are excellent. The knobs are super heavy and metallic. It's just beautiful. The pads are really nice, they're really smooth. They don't have this grainy, rubbery sort of cheap quality to them. And the screens, of course, are super high definition color screens, and it's just fantastic. I really love the build quality of this machine. It's definitely worth the money. Sometimes you might have a sample that sounds a little bit flat and you want it a bit more punchy, and you might not want to use a compressor. Well, the Transient Master inside Maschine Plus is really great in my opinion. So on pad 1 I've got this breakbeat which sounds a little bit flat and it's not really punchy enough for me. So if we go across with the data wheel, we could just move onto the plus symbol just by clicking this wheel. So this is a multi-directional wheel. Press on it and we can select from one of the plugins here. Let's just move up here to Transient Master, press down on the wheel, and now we've added that to this sample. So it won't take effect until we actually add some of these parameters. So let's add some attack to this. And you can hear that that really brings this sample alive just from adding the attack in the Transient Master. So when you use the attack parameter in a lot of transient effects, it really affects the sustain, but you can hear that this still retains the kind of fullness of the sample. Let's actually add some sustain and see how that sounds. So it kind of gives a compression effect. But if you just want to add some punch to the attack of your sounds, the Transient Master effect is excellent. Yet another excellent feature about Maschine Plus is the ability to move things around. Let's first start with the pads. So I've got a number of samples here in this group, etc. Let's say we want to put the sample that's on pad 1 onto pad 10. We just press and hold shift, and up the top here you can see we've got move. If we just press the right arrow, you can see it cycling through the pads, and now it's on pad 10, and it's reordered the pads. So these are two different samples. So let's put pad 2 onto pad 1, and we press the left move button. That's now on pad 1. So you can easily reorder your pads without having to copy and paste them. The same thing goes for patterns. Whilst in pattern mode, we can use the pads to select the different patterns that we're currently working with. So if we press and hold shift, we can press move. So let's move the pattern that's being triggered on pad 1 to pad 10. Simple as that. No copying and pasting. It is simple as that. The same thing goes for scenes, although you can only move scenes around in the actual span of scenes that you've got. So you can see I've got 5 scenes here. Let's press and hold shift. We can move this to any one of the other scenes up to scene 5. And now that is going to be triggered from pad 1 or selected from pad 1. Another effect which is excellent in Maschine Plus is grain stretch. For this to work, you do need the sequencer running. So first of all, I'm going to trigger the sample which is on pad 3, which is a breakbeat sample. Let's switch it on and see what happens. So nothing happens when we engage it just by pressing the pad. So if we've got the sequencer running, whether we've got notes for this pad recorded or not, this is when the grain stretch will work. So I've actually recorded this into a pattern and it's going to play this back over 1 bar. So you can see you can get really experimental and granular with that. And of course we can record all these parameters using the automation button. So let's play the pattern back again and record some of this as automation. So excellent, you can automate all those things and get some really experimental sound design and glitchy, weird stuff going on. In Maschine Plus, it's really easy to organise your patterns so they play back at different sections within your song. And it does that by scenes, and the scenes reference the patterns that you make. So my groups here, group A is drums, so we're in pad mode so I can trigger the different sounds. Okay, so they're my drum sounds. If we go to group B, we've got some Rhodes keyboard sounds. And in group B, I've got a bass sound. If we just take a look at these scenes here, now we're in ideas mode. So if we press and hold shift, you can see that we're in ideas mode here, and we can go to song mode. Let's just stay in ideas mode. And we can see that in scene 1, the patterns that are being referenced for this particular scene is pattern 1 for group A for the drums, pattern 5 for group B for the Rhodes keyboard, and no patterns for group B because the bass isn't in this particular scene. If we go to scene 2, we can now see that we're referencing pattern 1 for the drums, but now we're referencing pattern 1 for group B, which is the Rhodes. Scene 3, again, we're now referencing some different patterns. For group A, it's pattern 2. For group B, it's pattern 7. And we're still not referencing the bass. I believe there's a 5th scene, and there you go. In scene 5, we're referencing pattern 4 for the drums, pattern 9 for the Rhodes, and pattern 1 for the bass in group C. So how do we get these scenes to appear in a particular order in our song timeline? Well, it's really easy. We go to scene. So now we can see our 5 scenes here. Press append, and whatever order we press these scene pads, that will appear in our song. So let's just press them in order. And you can see they are populating the timeline here. So now if we deselect scene, press and hold shift, can press song up there. Now you can see our song. So let's just zoom out. Now you can see all our different patterns. So let's just press play and you can see these go through in order in our song. So if we use these directional arrows, we can jump between the different sections which have our scenes in. So if we go all the way back left, you can see this is section 1, scene 1. Section 2 is scene 2, section 3 is scene 3, section 4 is scene 4, and section 5 is scene 5. But we can swap these out. So if we didn't want scene 5 to be at this position, section 5, we can just select from the scenes here, and we can completely swap those out and reference different scenes at the different positions in our timeline. So position 2, we can just choose a completely different scene.